Hello, welcome to Lesson 3, also Medicine and Religion in the Roman Empire. But this part of this topic is going to focus on divinities, one of the three elements of healthcare professionals that we are dealing with this week. So it is normal to assume that the majority of people in the ancient Near East, whether you're talking Roman or Greek or Syrian or Palestinian or Jewish, most people believed that gods and goddesses had an active role to play in all aspects of life. And of course, this included also sickness and health and death. Diseases, as something that were sent by gods and goddesses, could neither be avoided nor healed unless the anger was appeased by sacrifice or maybe by purification. Consequently, disease and the sickness that resulted from it was regarded as a shameful condition that had to be attended to by others. And very often, the sick person had to be confined or isolated in some way. So disease was thought to be caused by malevolent powers that caused illness and misery and death. But the situation wasn't completely dire. There was, in fact, a variety of individuals to whom a person who was ill might appeal in order to assist them in the healing process. So, a little bit about religion in the ancient world. Religious activity pretty much took place on two playing fields. Public, so the religious activity of the social world, but then also private. The religious activity of domestic cults or household gods. Generally, deities in the ancient world existed to meet basic needs, and sometimes the approach of the divine could be seen as very arbitrary. In other words, you might make your appeal and you might make your request, but whether or not that appeal would be answered or your request would be granted, one couldn't always know. The cosmos was a pretty crowded place in antiquity, and this is largely due to the fact that the Greeks and the Romans were very generous in their understanding of the divine. They had no problem sharing their divinities. They simply renamed them. And it was a sensible way of allowing an individual to reshape a divine being or quality or attribute in such a way that it fit within their particular culture. Another quality of private religion and domestic cults is that there wasn't really a sense of a fixed afterlife. There was the concept of the immortality of the soul, of course, which Western religious traditions will inherit from Plato and the Platonic view of the afterlife. But there wasn't really a concept of a heaven where people are walking around in an embodied way on golden streets and living in mansions with many rooms. This concept of an afterlife as a place is something that is going to emerge slowly and much later, and in centuries closer to our time, actually, on this side of the 1st century. So for those of you who are wondering, what does salvation mean, then salvation in antiquity and in the classical worlds meant, or at least salvation was evident in a good life. So an individual who was seen as receiving the favor of the god or goddess was one who received those benefits in a way that others could see them. So a good life would include things like good health, for example, but it also would be, and usually this is from the angle of a man's experience of a good life, so wives and concubines, children, fertile animals, fertile crops, or a productive career. In the case of men who were not farmers, being an aristocrat or a leader. These are seen as elements of salvation, evidence of the favor of the divine shining down on someone. So we can see that with private religion, there was a great deal of pluralism, and this was acceptable, of course, within limits. Obviously, the father was the head of the household, and so controlled the household cults that were enjoyed and practiced by his family. So there were limits that way, and there were also limits in terms of your relationship with the state. Your pluralism was acceptable as long as you were a good citizen. So your religious identity could not impact the state in a negative way. And so what we learn about life in antiquity by people's religious behaviors is that there was really a world of options. There were a lot of divinities to whom you could appeal for any of your needs, and this includes healthcare as well. In many ways, this mosaic which we have from antiquity really shows the options available to people. We see over here Hippocrates seated by the side of the road. We see a man who is seeking some kind of assistance from Hippocrates or perhaps from Asclepius. So you can see from this mosaic that there are choices for people. There are secular medical choices, and there are also religious medical choices, and they don't necessarily have to be in conflict. So let's talk about Asclepius. So Asclepius is the son of Apollo, according to the account, and there are a couple of different accounts, of course. And Apollo is one of the more important gods in the Greek and Roman pantheon. According to some of the different accounts, Apollo rescued his son Asclepius because Asclepius's mortal mother died during childbirth, and though her body was put on a funeral pyre, Apollo managed to snatch the baby before the body was consumed in the fire, and then gave Asclepius to a centaur to raise, I suppose a centaur being an appropriate nanny. In another account, Apollo caught Asclepius's mother having an affair and killed her, but then took the baby from her womb and again gave the baby to a centaur to raise. Either way, in the account, the baby is given to a centaur to raise, and the centaur teaches Asclepius the arts of healing. In time, as an adult, Asclepius taught his medical knowledge and healing knowledge to his children, one of whom you see pictured here, standing with her father. Here is Asclepius, and here is his daughter Hygeia. And you can see the people coming before them and bringing offerings and bringing children and people who are ill, hoping for a cure. So one of the things to note about Asclepius and Hygeia, in addition to the important role that they're going to play in the development of miraculous healing, as it is sometimes called, or religious medicine, is the impact that they will have on I think it's fair to call it the social media of medicine. You can probably notice that both Asclepius here and Hygeia here are accompanied by a snake, an animal that is very often associated with healing, because a snake has both venom, which can kill, but also has healing properties. So you can see here that Hygeia is holding a bowl with which she is milking the snake. And here you see Asclepius holding the staff, and note the snake is curled around it. And these are images and symbols which are even still used today. Here we have the symbol of the World Health Organization, and here is the symbol of the American Medical Association, and it's cut off a little bit here, but you can see the Asclepian staff with accompanying snake. So next time you see that image, you can think of Asclepius and his daughter Hygeia. So the shrine to Asclepius was also, and it's still standing now, one of the shrines, is also on the island of Kos, where Hippocrates was born. So let's go there. Let's take a look at it. We can go through the beauty of Google Maps. See if I can do this without making you too terribly sick. We can travel to the island of Kos. Really like to take a class there someday. It would be fun, wouldn't it? And we can zero in on the ancient healing temple, which still stands there today, right next to the Platanista Hotel, so we could stay there. Or we could stay at the Odysseus Resort and Spa. That sounds good. But we've got to get there first. Work our way down. I'm not doing this quickly because I don't want to make you sick. And there, we can see the space where the shrine was. It was built on 3 different levels, and there was a grove of sacred trees where some of the cures took place. And let's drop ourselves down in there. I love this little guy. Let's go right about there. Okay, so here we are on the island of Kos, and we're standing at the remains of the Asclepian. And you can see, not only by this, but also by, this picture over here, that this is a pretty massive complex. Kind of look a little bit more closely at some of the spaces, but just want to give you a little look around. This was a massive construction. Oh, I don't know who that is, but it looks very pretty standing there. All right, let's go back to our, where are we? Here we go. Okay, so here we have a reconstructed drawing of the Asclepian, and again you can see the different levels, and just up here in the back, still standing there today, is a shrove of the sacred trees, where a lot of the interaction with the god was meant to take place. But what's along here? Right? What's happening here? Part of this complex includes apartments, places for people to come and stay, places for, obviously, bathrooms, right? If you've got sick people coming, you have to have a place for that. There are areas where there are treatments and surgeries and places for various therapeutic types of healthcare that was managed by the priests there at the shrine.